kasi we have a big project on mass surveillance.
Now, and from what I initially gathered, I would say I'm on the non-surveillance side.
CCTV cameras are highly effective in crime prevention.
Significant data from an extensive polling on public opinion about mass surveillance published by the PEW Research in 2013.
But in reality, everyone is affected and are considered guilty.
Hi everyone! Sorry I'm late. Kumusta kayong lahat?
Ito, excited na matulog at kumain at mag-Netflix. Uy, Marco, nakita ko yung post mo sa Facebook ng Christmas party niyo. Saan yun?
Ano, excited lang kasi first time ko manalo sa raffle. Sakto rin kasi magagamit ko yung napanalunan ko. How about you, Janelle? Won anything recently?
Uy, buti pa kayo na nanalo ng raffle. Kasi ako, never talaga ako nanalo ng mga raffle eh. Sayang yung, yung TV na 55-inch. Ikaw, Juvie, kamusta yung mga raffle sa inyo? Balita ko, bongga raw.
Sayang naman kung gano'n, pero maling mo next year nanalo ka na. Pero grabe yung mga major parts dito sa company namin na kakaanis. Sobrang generous ng management. Meron sila pa iPhone 13 Pro, MacBook Pro, 100K, and trip to Amman Polo. Anyway, ikaw Bench, kamusta Christmas party sa inyo? Especially yung food.
Wow, Juvie, ang galing naman sa office niyo sa amin kasi walang pa-raffle eh. But enjoy naman sa food, good drinks. May palit nga yung boss namin sa office eh. Kaya nga, I feel that tumaas yung cholesterol ko sa kakakain. How about you, Dave? Kamusta naman?
Sarap naman ng lechon. Naku, kailangan mo siguro ng pineapple juice dyan para matanggal yung sakit sa ulo. Pero okay naman dito. Maraming beer saka may hamon na rin. Pero nice, si Juby nanalo ng iPhone 13.
Oo nga eh, hindi nga ako nag-e-expect na mananalo. Solid pa naman yung performance no. Eh, si Kulong ba? Kamusta sa inyo?
Sa'min okey naman. Ang daming prizes. Yun nga lang hindi rin ako nanalo sa raffle. Lagi ako yung parang consolation lang na bibigyan kayo ng ham, ganyan, queso de bola, gano'n. Gano'n lang yung natatanggap ko. Kailan kaya ako suswertehin? Ay, ikaw Ivan, kumusta diyan?
Baka mahina yung connection ni Ivan.
Oo nga, kasi di ba medyo may bagyo ngayon. So
Oo.
maya-maya baka nandyan na siya.
Ivan, ulitin mo, medyo choppy diyan. Kumusta diyan? Hello, hello?
Hello? Hello?
Ayan,
Ayan,
Naman
okay
daw
na.
ba?
namin.
So, ayun na nga. Malas din ako sa raffle. Tapos, ang din, PDO ham. It is din ayun nga yung spirit of Christmas eh. Kasi basta may makuha ka pa, salamat pa tayo doon eh. Pero, siguro talaga, stress ka.
Kaya nga, I'm a bit stressed kasi I just got home from work and medyo busy kami ngayon kasi we have a big project on mass surveillance. And we're still on the planning phase and I'm tasked to do the research. And from what we have worked on so far, we found out that it has a lot of pros and cons. So we're still thinking whether we should continue working on the project or not. So yun, what do you think guys? Uy Zel, 'di ba you're working at NBI? What's your take on this? And we're also considering the implications of mass surveillance on a company and its employees. 'Di ba Marco, you're a psychologist. So do you think we should implement it?
Alam mo, hot topic ngayon sa office 'to. We just had a meeting with the prosecution and the police agency para i-assess yung process at rate ng pag-solve ng criminal cases. We are so swamped with cases kasi ang hirap ng mga investigations. Ang hirap at ang tagal maghanap ng right evidence and credible witnesses para makausad yung mga kaso. Our team is actually requesting support with the help of technology. So that's why mass surveillance is something I'm excited about. I've read about how Singapore has implemented it, and given that they have a low crime rate, I am positive about this. Pag may CCTV sa public places, mamamonitor yung areas na may mataas na crime rates. So knowing that authorities can see what's happening in real time and can identify people with the installed cameras, potential criminals would think twice before doing their crimes. Lurking public threats can be prevented because authorities can be alerted promptly so they could keep an eye on these threats. And if something happens, police can respond to it immediately. So there are times when we cannot fully trust the statement of witnesses unless they have proven their credibility. But captured footage could give unbiased and complete details of what really happened. So in that case, in a case naman na yung defendant is wrongly accused, the footage can also serve as evidence to prove his or her innocence. Super helpful din ang ma-surveillance sa pag-track ng suspects na nakatakas and have to be arrested. And if we are to use it for that purpose, we might as well use it to find missing people, di ba? So from my perspective, this will greatly aid our investigations and would significantly lessen the time for us to solve our cases. Overall, I'm really for it.
Ah, what a coincidence that Cha brought up this topic. I've been doing research on this topic for a while now, and from what I initially gathered, I would say I'm on the non-surveillance side. I completely agree with all the points you mentioned, Zell. It's been proven time and again that mass surveillance does what it's meant to do: prevent terrorism, reduce crime, make policing and investigations easier, and hold people accountable for their actions. All of these benefits the society as a whole. However, these benefits come with a rather steep price, in my humble opinion. We are already living in a surveillance society, as I'm sure you are all aware. Admittedly, the field of psychology, my field, has been slow to cast a watchful eye over the implications. We know very little about how ordinary people experience surveillance, but most are quick to assume that it's an overall positive thing. For example, surveillance in the workplace. While it's true that surveillance led to higher productivity on the task, the actual quality of work took a dip. The truth of the matter is, the spread of surveillance across public and private space presents potential for people's sense of self and identity to be shaped by surveillance. It has a chilling effect on how we conduct ourselves on public spaces, whether or not we're doing anything illegal. Personally, I don't like to live that way. In terms of ethics, I dare argue that the price of the price we're paying as individuals. I mean, in terms of ethics, I dare argue is the price that we are paying as individuals justify the benefits of mass surveillance to our society?
Thanks, Zell and Marco. Your answers make so much sense. Though it made me more confused whether we should continue working on the project or not. By the way, I'm also researching the implementation of mass surveillance in the IT industry. Hi, Janelle and Juvie. You're from the IT industries, right? So, what do you think about my project?
Actually, sobrang natuwa ko when I heard your project. As an infrastructure engineer in the IT field, I have been working on a lot of research relating to mass surveillance. In fact, I have been gathering information related to this type of project. Pwede ako magbigay ng points kung bakit ako agree sa project niya. When we talk about mass surveillance, CCTV cameras are usually the first thing that comes to our mind. May nabasa ako na study where CCTV cameras are highly effective in crime prevention, specifically crime against persons or property by simply recording the scenes that can help in solving the reported theft or robbery incidents.
On the other hand, being an information security analyst, we are responsible for the installation of software such as a firewall to protect the organization's networks and servers. We plan, evaluate, and implement security strategies to prevent breaches and ensure that organizations' digital assets and sensitive information are secured. I respect your point of view. However, public camera surveillance is quite expensive since it is not effective enough to deter crimes and theft and many other crimes or other circumstances. Why would we spend too much money on it? which only fails to make us safer but also violates our personal rights and privacy. Aside from the devices, you have also to consider the firewall software, database storage, either local or cloud, surveillance system, which can collect phone and text message conversation, as well as internet communication and facial recognition system.
Well, itong mga installed cameras ay pwedeng gamitin for crowd control. Simula nung pandemic, bawal na yung mga mass gatherings, bawal na tayo magkita-kita. We can have a new early warning camera system that could anticipate dangerous situations as they arise when large crowds gather. This will be immediately reported to the assigned officers in the area. Napansin niyo ba yung mga infrared thermography scanners na ginagamit sa mga airport? Yung parang may different colors sa katawan kapag nakikita sa screen. It has been widely used as a screening tool during the past infectious disease, including the COVID-19. Airports have already deployed thermal cameras and can also be deployed in crowded areas. For examples, in public establishments like malls or markets, we can deploy a thermography scanner there to monitor crowds and determine whether their temperature is above normal level.
Kapag ba in-implement ko yung project, paano yung magiging setup mo? Ino-notify mo ba yung mga individual or yung mga concerned citizen about dito na they are being watched? Paano yung magiging privacy nila? Paano mo ipoprotect yun?
Mahalaga na ma-inform ang mga tao about the implementation of this project in order to avoid mass panic and educate them about its benefits. On the other hand, the system relies on heat-sensitive cameras, and it only generates numbers, which reduces the amount of data. It also enables the system to monitor situations in real time and flag up potential problems. Hindi nito actually nare-record yung mga videos but infrared images only. The camera only transmits the number of people recorded and not video images. An additional dimension of privacy comes from the fact that facial features are almost impossible to identify from infrared imagery. With regards to the CCTVs, based on the data that I gathered, there are around 90 CCTV cameras installed and activated in the city. This includes malls, markets, parks, and other establishments. Ito yung speed dome, 180 to 360 degree rotation, high definition, and waterproof camera. Actually, we are planning to install more cameras around the city for wider range of monitoring.
So, nag-install tayo ng mga CCTV devices sa public areas. Meron kasi siyang scope. So, kailangan pag-isipan ng mabuti kung saan siya ilalagay. Kasi possible na ma-invade niyan yung privacy ng mga citizen. So, pwede siyang ikabit sa public transportation. Doon sa mga places wherein malapit sa mga informal settlers. And pwede din na doon sa mga location na mataas yung rate of crime. Pwede din malapit sa nightclubs, sa mga malls, gano'n. As I have mentioned a while ago, the cost of public security cameras is another issue. Since many doubt the effectiveness, they feel that public surveillance systems are a waste of money. They argue that high maintenance and cost of these systems are not justified by the limited results. It is difficult to assess the efficacy of mass surveillance system, and therefore it is difficult to justify that this is a good way to spend limited resources.
Agree ako sa mga binigay mong points, Juvie. Actually, we have been meeting with different IT solutions and software companies to provide facial recognition software that will be integrated with the installed CCTV cameras. May nabasa akong article where yung police of Florida used Identix Face It and they found 19 people na may pending arrest warrants during the Super Bowl event. The data also states that the city has telecommunication radio towers that will allow live viewing of video surveillance type of equipment. This will help in overall success of crime prevention within the city.
Even if the data collected through surveillance creates a reasonable suspicion of conduct for the targeted person, there may not be a guarantee that the individual is guilty. So parang sa akin, kailangan mo ng sobrang concrete na evidence or parang proof in order to parang masupport yung kanyang ginawang crime, or let's say, for example, fault, you know. When we increase the amount of coverage that's available in the city, then we begin to restrict the rights of those who don't deserve security interventions. We need to consider privacy issues when creating surveillance policies. For one, cameras should avoid or mask inappropriate views of private areas such as yards and windows of bedrooms or washrooms. The law enforcement agencies must formulate how surveillance cameras can be used and what are the disciplinary consequences for misuse. Likewise, officers should be thoroughly trained on these policies and held accountable for abiding by them. So dapat meron din silang agreement na nagsisign sila parang non-disclosure act, parang ganun, or NDA.
Wow. So thanks for that, Janelle and Juvie. Now that I have heard sides from IT infrastructure and IT security, I will consider all your insights and ideas in our project. I learned that there are pros and cons in these different fields, and we need to manage the cost well and avoid data privacy issues to protect the citizens. Ayun. So thank you. Aside from that, we're also planning to expand our project to nearby schools and involve non-government organizations in the future. I think Benj, Levy, and Dave are the experts in these fields. So what do you think, guys?
Well, sa akin naman siya, as someone who has been working with data and numbers, we could not deny the fact that there is a huge number of controversies sa pagitan ng privacy at security brought about by mass surveillance, right, friends? Nonetheless, allow me to share some significant data from an extensive polling on public opinion about mass surveillance published by the PEW Research in 2013. Alam niyo ba na 56% of Americans convey that federal courts don't have adequate limits on data collected by the government as part of their Anti-Terrorism Act. And 70% believes that the government is even using these data for other purposes. Pero eto yung mas interesting. Let's take note that on the same survey, it also shows that 50% of Americans approve the anti-terrorism surveillance of the government, and with 44% approved the program, and the remaining 6% were not sure about it. So with these numbers, meron talagang indication that the public opinion is increasingly moving to accept the government's program of surveillance. To affirm this, meron pang survey yung PEW Research on the same year that has found out that 56% of Americans believe that getting secret court orders to track down phone calls is acceptable in order to investigate terrorism. So I have a question. Which is relevant, individual right to privacy or collective right to security? Because if people are willing to sacrifice their own privacy in order to be protected, I would do the same thing. I would be willing to sacrifice my own privacy in order to contribute to the collective security of the community or the country. So bulk data collection is necessary because it narrows down the identification and of the evidence and factors that would help the investigation. So I believe that we have to take into consideration the protracted wars, fears of domestic terrorism, and crime prevention, where the government needs to secure the safety of its citizens. So sa akin, I'm positive that implementation of this mass surveillance is an essential tool for the government para naman maging safe yung citizens.
Oh, thanks, Benj, for raising that out. Yeah, you got a point right there. I cannot deny that security is a paramount concern, not just for our society, but also for our personal welfare. I have been serving in a non-government organization for quite some time now. So similar to your what you want to raise, mass surveillance for me functions on its own, given the chance that no one will be held accountable for handling this program. Based on the research I have gathered, which was published by Werlinson from 2002 report, mass surveillance aims to learn more about the given individual and tries to analyze every data it can collect. If that individual is suspected to be committing violations, perhaps that individual may be worried, while the others may be relaxed because of their belief that their status is on the affirmative side. However, this creates a mindset that law-abiding citizens are considered an exception from the program, which in turn is a fallacy. This is because the program will entirely depend on its analysis, algorithm, and collective report, wherein everyone is considered a threat or may then eventually be a suspect, whether that individual is should be considered one. So what I'm saying is that there should be no individuality nor collective nor group collection of reports because it will entirely depend on the data it has been collected. So how about you, Levy?
They've got a point. If we consider the general public mass surveillance may have a hard time since there are different industries, sectors, and livelihoods that need to be considered. But for me, we may implement mass surveillance in any areas, specifically in school. That has cons and pros to the students and even to the teachers as well. In today's generation, wherein we are in a digital age, technologies are rampant. They are already part of our living, and whether we like it or not, they created a huge impact to all of us. As teachers, may I say that yes, putting those technologies in areas where students are busy doing their stuff is good. We are putting those gadgets just to make sure that they will do the necessary things that we wanted them to do. And that is very alarming to their part. The school also can impose good and strong rules and regulation and would promote a healthy environment for both students and teachers. It undermines students' trust in their learning environments, is effective at keeping them safe, and reinforce systematic injustice. Schools need to slam the brakes and think about what kind of dystopia they're creating for their student that make life in schools much easier. We all know that only mass surveillance is the key to secure the safety of all students. That is the purpose of having mass surveillance in our day-to-day life at schools. With all of this in mind, may I ask you, Dave, what be your insight regarding the program which may bring assurance and security to students?
Oh, thank you, Levy, for that. I like the idea of implementing mass surveillance in schools so that we can monitor our students regarding their performance and behaviors. But for me, considering the academy's implementation of mass surveillance, it may bring some conundrum. This take is back from a research written by Maggie from 1997, wherein it is highlighted that these findings that there were some fallacies and misconceptions in the sample group, which are students, that only the wrongdoers or delinquent students should be worried. In contrast, all of the students are entirely being monitored by the mass surveillance program, since their data are constantly being collected to have the surveillance system come up with an analysis report. This is also similar to my take from Bench Dilemma, wherein this program may steer fallacies that only the guilty ones are the prime targets of this program. But in reality, everyone is affected and are considered guilty until substantial evidence, which was gathered based on the analytics, proves otherwise. So yeah, that's it for my take. Uh, how about you, Chad?
Ang ganda ng ano natin 'no, exchange ng ideas. So, thanks for that, Bench, Levy, and Dave. I will include your insights in my project. Thank you so much for your help. We cannot deny the fact that mass surveillance has a lot of benefits and drawbacks. Anything you want to add, Colleen and Ivan?
Ayan, hello! Finally, I'm super excited to finally speak para i-discuss yung mga positive sides na napulot ko from you about mass surveillance. First, we have Sel. She is a government employee for in NBI. According to her, ang mass surveillance daw ay nakakatulong sa security at safety ng certain individual. Dagdag pa niya, in-installing daw ng CCTVs in public areas ay nakaka-reduce ng crime rate kasi it can track and monitor suspects to solve cases in their investigation. Hindi lang sa government agencies merong positive sides dahil diniscuss din ito ng some of the people na nag-e-exist ito sa IT companies. Patunay ito ni Janelle. She is an infrastructure engineer. She tackled some of the new emerging technologies like the infrared thermal scanners that have been widely used daw sa airport to monitor crowded areas. Another one daw is the use of facial recognition software na i-install siya sa CCTVs na I think it has something to do with the artificial intelligence. Tapos, napansin ko lang na lahat ng data na na-gather natin wouldn't be valid if there is no supporting document. Kagaya ni Bench, she is a statistician and a data gatherer. Nabanggit niya sa kanyang research na 50% daw ng mga Americans ay in favor of anti-terrorism surveillance, samantalang ang 44% naman ay hindi sang-ayon, at ang 6% naman undecided. Ibig sabihin lang nito na people in America agreed or in favor of anti-terrorism surveillance. Lastly, si Levy, he is a school teacher. He agreed na putting mass surveillance in school vicinity is a must for safety and security of students against violence. Kung saan busy din yung students and doing their stuff. After hearing both sides, I must say na mas panig ako sa affirmative side. I have learned a lot from you guys. Pero ikaw, Ivan, saang side ka ba in favor?
Ako nandun ako sa more of the disagreeing side. Well, narinig naman natin kanina si Marco, sabi nga niya, yung critical issue doon is yung to price to benefit comparison no? Well, may analogy dito eh. I'm sure you have heard of the saying, you're using a cannon to kill a fly. So medyo masyado kasing mataas yung cost on both finances at saka sa privacy ng mga tao para sa benefits na nakukuha natin. Actually, na mas nabuprove pa to nung paper na pinublish ni Danesis at ni Whitneben na sabi nga nila doon na in case na imperfect yung information na nakukuha sa isang target selection, yung 100% ng intelligence, medyo mas mataas at saka it would require me observing nearly everyone. At saka sobrang high ng cost nun, i-cover mo lahat ng yon. Kasi after the first 20%, yung susunod na to, talagang exponential yung increase of cost niya. Na mas discuss pa to ni Juby din na sabi nga niya, mataas ang cost to ensure that the infrastructure is sufficient for the surveillance of this mass scale we are talking about. Mas narinig din natin nga kay Ben kanina, sabi nga niya na 50% ng Americans daw agree. Pero meron din kasing pinublish na study sila, Rule McAdams, Stearns and Newbrow, na ito specifically diniscuss nila yung mga surveillance in the United States. They went back to the basics, even though its definition, na surveillance means any systematic attention to a person's life aimed at exerting influence over it. Further extending yung definition to social control, na dinedefine naman ito as efforts to define yung big amount correct action for profit. Ito yung binanggit ni Marco kanina. Na napipilitan yung mga tao to adhere to a certain standard na pinaalam nila na surveillance. Dito natin makikita yung main concern na normally, never pa kasi nagawa itong surveillance on this mass scale. Kaya kailangan din natin maisip na itong mga social relationships na ito hindi ito disadvantageous to the anonymous public. Tapos dagdag pa ni Dave kanina na policy nga naman talaga na yung delinquents lang yung kailangan mag-alala. Kasi lahat naman tayo, actually kahit yung hindi delinquents, is suddenly assumed guilty until proven innocent, which is opposite siya dun sa innocent until proven guilty. So according to Rule McAdams, Stearns and Newbrow, itong presumption of guilt is disadvantageous to sa public. Actually, more to expand more on this, may paper noong 2016 si Stahl or sa an article pala na pinublish niya na indiscriminate mass surveillance yung mga technology na regarding that raise several issues na medyo hindi natin na-discuss kadalasan sa classic disruptions of privacy. Number one, yung unprecedented scale. Case in point, yung Tempora program na reveal ni Edward Snowden. Actually, meron siyang movie sa Netflix. It's Snowden yung title. So, magandang panoorin yun. Yung program na yun, it affected every sector in the concerned countries. Rather, yung supposed na target lang nila. Sabi pa nga Larry Mistal, na hindi naman kasi morally problematic kung kukuha ka ng information or data about a few people. Ang problematic dito is if you are gathering it for everyone all of the time. So, yun nga, with this, iwan ko lang kayo ng message na binanggit ko ni Abraham Maslow noong 1956. Sabi niya, I suppose it is tempting. If the only tool you have is a hammer, you treat everything as if it were a drill. So, yun siya. Ang sabihin mo.
Wow, thank you everyone. I think I'm halfway done sa aking research. So I will include all your insights and ideas. Pasensya na ha, yung resource party natin medyo naging debate. Pero fruitful naman yung debate natin. So let's start our party na lang, di ba? Huwag na tayo mag-debate. Okay lang? Start na natin yung party natin.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Ready para sa lechon.
Oo, ano lang sa akin. Pineapple juice lang sa akin.
Ay, akala mo ba chika lang tayo? Hindi.
Kaya nga eh.
Isis namin ng Gcash kasi yung part namin magsalita. Charot.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
everyone.
you, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay.
Holiday.
Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Merry Christmas.